Today we're covering the truth about white people who are Satan's descendants, Esau, who is Edom, the tribe of Dan, the Serpents. First, Ahia is omniscient, all-knowing, all-seeing, omnipresent. Ahia is present everywhere at all times, and omnipotent. Ahia is all-powerful. He is the first and the last, the beginning and end, the past, present, and future. Ahia knows all things at all times. Mighty God Ahia hate Esau, the white man. He does not accept them. Esau, who is Edom, the father of the Edomites, also called Mount Seir, and the tribe of Dan, who's also included in Japheth's descendants, the firstborn of Noah's boys, and the seedline of Satan, Lucifer, the fallen cherub. Lucifer is also called the red dragon, the devil, Satan, king of Tyre, king of Tyrus, Rusty, Zidon, Tyre, Tery, Rock, Tupoc, Lebanon, Hiram and Huram, Sidon, Sig, S-S-I-G, and Sig, C-I-G, as in Cigma chemicals, in the insurance Cigma. Cigma transposed in letters spells magic. C-I-G as in cigarettes and cigars and cigarillos. He's a Zodiac. The Zodiac Cancer. Additional names of Satan is Apollyon, Abaddon, Mestema, Belial, Beelzebub, according to the King James Version Bible and the Book of Jubilees. White people are descendants of Lucifer, the fallen cherub, who was a powder satin white color. He was an albino who could shapeshift. The planet Saturn has Lucifer's name embedded. His energy color, his spiritual energy color is red. Angel color, white, silky satin. Satan. Lucifer is also called the red dragon again, and the devil Satan. Satan is transformed into a child of light, a black woman, Sabrina Dowry, mentioned in the forgotten books of Eden in these last days. Satan transformed himself many times, mentioned in the forgotten books of Eden. The forgotten books of Eden goes over the various forms Satan transformed himself. We're going to cover a couple of those things. One, he transformed himself as a beautiful black woman, Sabrina Dowry. That was the last apparition, temptation. Number 2, an angel of light. Number 3, a beguiling light, mentioned in chapter 27. Satan transformed his hosts like angels, singing praises like Christians outside the cave of treasures when Adam and Eve were first here in the beginning. Number 4, a serpent snake. Number 5, an old man and a relative, mentioned in chapter 60. He also transformed himself as beautiful maidens, he and his hosts, mentioned in chapter 72 of the forgotten books of Eden. Number 7, the image of mighty God Ahia. Now I remember that apparition. He was bound, tied up, and he tricked me thinking that he was Ahia, and I let him loose. And then that's when mighty God Ahia's quickening spirit caught him and bind him back up. He looked exactly like Ahia, a glowing light. How did it happen? Sometimes in the beginning, before Earth was, our original planet was blown up by the enemy, Esau, the white man. Ahia and we angels were creating the heavens. And I stopped and asked mighty God Ahia to create a world we can call our home, away from home, with a chocolate rainbow of people, from deep dark chocolate to high vanilla. I said that way, when you are away from home at work, I can look upon the children and see you through them and be comforted for missing you. Ahia, mighty God, is my husband. I am Eve resurrected. I am King David resurrected. Ahia, mighty God, created earth with a nuclear weapon, a nuke, embedded with his word, the Messiah Yeshua, and our DNA, the Heavenly Father Ahia and Mother Kaya and Ahia, with special commands in case the enemy attempts to annihilate our seed off the earth while we were asleep. Meanwhile, in heaven, Ahia created planet Saturn. He was unstable. We placed bands around Saturn, who was Satan, to keep him from weakening and oppressing the other planets, the children. Lucifer is Satan, the red planet Saturn. Lucifer was a serpent snake within planet Saturn while being created. Lucifer could shapeshift from serpent snake to angel to women, beguiled in light after evolving a few times. A high and mighty God trained and taught we angels in heaven. We have special abilities, special powers according to our faith and level of training. There was a lot of magic and magical things in heaven. Later on, after earth was created and war broke off in heaven, Lucifer, aka Satan, was kicked out of heaven down to earth in the pit of hell, where we currently are, along with his 1/3 of the stars that drew to tell against Ahiah, his followers, which are called Tares and Chaff, for plotting to kill mighty God Ahiah and take over heaven. Satan sees the Tares and Chaff arrived on earth through childbirth from the 1/3 angels Ahiah sent to earth. That's why in the book, in King James Version Bible, it tells us that our enemy are those of our own household. Satan had mingled his polluted seed with Ahiah's righteous seed mentioned in Matthew 13, and we'll go over that later down the line. Further down the timeline, after the great flood on the earth, where mighty God Ahiah destroyed everything except us 8 people on Noah's Ark. I was on Noah's Ark. Ahiah was Noah, and I was his wife. Yah preserved a remnant in Noah, who is Shem. All were destroyed on earth except 8 souls, Noah, his wife, and sons, Japheth, Ham, and Shem, with their wives. Satan's seed was preserved in Noah's son Japheth, the firstborn, and his descendants. Something with these firstborn males, they're evil to me. It's like going over the Bible, all the firstborns mentioned are evil. Later on in history, while humans were in a spiritual deep sleep, Satan planted his seed in Ahiah's children, mingled and mixed with both Ham and Shem descendants to pollute the royal seed line. But mighty God Ahiah preserved a remnant for himself. Many of the firstborn males on earth, starting with Cain, were evil. Even after the flood, Japheth, a firstborn male, Ishmael, a firstborn male, Esau, a firstborn male, are evil, wicked on earth. Satan slew Ahiah's firstborn males. Then in the first Exodus plague, Ahiah slew Satan's firstborn males. Satan's seed mixed with Ahiah's holy seed after the flood, starting with Abraham and Hagar, Sarah's handmaiden, Ishmael, the son of the Ishmaelites. Satan's seed carried through to Isaac and Rebekah with son Esau, who is Edom, who are white people. Thereafter, Satan's seed mingled with the 12 tribes of Israel, from Jacob and Bela, 5th son Dan, white male, father of the tribe of Dan, the Ku Klux Klan or tribe of Dan. Mighty God Ahiah warned us in Genesis 49:17 that the tribe of Dan are serpents, Satan's seed. Ahiah also pointed out to us in Amos 8:14 of the King James Version Bible that the tribe of Dan is worshipped as a god. They have an idol in Bohemian Grove where they sacrifice unto a false idol. The tribe of Dan are not part of the end times tribe because they judged Judah and Israel wrongfully with hatred and cruelty. For example, police brutality, federal government called the principalities, Satan's wall blockers, with unfair and unlawful practices showing favoritism and respect of persons to white people. White people have exalted themselves above the rest, along with the Russians, who are still also Japheth's descendants. White people are identified in the Bible as Mount Seir, who is Esau, who is Edom, the tribe of Dan, the Serpents, mostly in Japheth's descendants, a mixture of white people, Romans, Catholics, Jebusites, the Jesuits, the Russians, the Arabs, the Ishmaelites, the Chinese, the Japanese, the Hindus, the Colombians, the Germans, the Swiss, the Dutch, and Polish, white, European, the white people. White people are cursed, descendants of Lucifer, aka Satan, from Japheth's descendants that has seized land not theirs. The United States does not belong to Esau. USA have Esau's name in it. Recorded in the Book of Jubilees, chapter 8-9. White people seize people called land also as slaves by snake charming eyes through witchcraft, sorcery, beguiling, and con. Ahiah, mighty God, Ahiah commanded his people Israel not to mix with the heathen nations, with white people and all the other heathen nations. White people have seized land not theirs all over the world. Japheth's descendants have enlarged themselves. White people, Japheth's descendants, were only given five islands and a great land up north, where it's cold, the North Pole, because their spiritual body energy is red hot. We're talking scientific spiritual terms now. Mighty God Ahia placed them up north where it's cold for this reason, because their spiritual energy is hot to balance the earth. Mighty God Ahia made and cursed Japheth's descendants, even he cursed Ham's descendants and transformed them to monkeys and apes, snakes and elephants, as mentioned in the Book of Jubilees, chapters 7 through 9, for building the Tower of Babel to attempt to ascend up to heaven to kill Mighty God Ahia. And we're going to go over scripture references that covers the faith of Esau, the white man, and their descendants, Satan's descendants. Mighty God Ahia is plucking Satan and all the host of Satan out of earth. The Book of Obadiah testifies of the faith and judgment against Esau, who is Edom, Mount Seir, the tribe of Dan, the Serpents. The Book of Obadiah of the King James Version Bible, chapter 1. The vision of Obadiah. Thus says Ahia mighty God concerning Edom. We have heard a rumor from Ahia mighty God, and an ambassador is sent among the heathen. Arise you, and let us rise up against her in battle. Behold, I, Ahia mighty God, have made thee small among the heathen. Thou art greatly despised, Esau. The pride of thine heart hath deceived thee. Thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rock, whose habitation is high, that said in his heart, who shall bring me down to the ground? Though thou exalted thyself as the eagle, and though thou set thy nest among the stars, thence will I bring thee down, says Ahia mighty God. How are the things of Esau searched out? How are his hidden things sought up? Shall I not in that day, said Ahia mighty God, even destroy the wise man out of Edom, and understanding out of the mount of Esau? And thy mighty men, O Teman, shall be dismayed, to the end that every one of the mount of Esau may be cut off by slaughter. For thy violence against thy brother Jacob, who is Israel, shame shall cover thee, and thou shalt be cut off forever. Thou shouldest not have entered into the gate of my people in the day of their calamity. Thou shouldest not have looked on their affliction in the day of their calamity, nor have laid hands on their substance in the day of their calamity. Neither shouldest thou have stood in the crossway to cut off those of his that did escape. Neither shouldest thou have delivered up those of his that did remain in the days of distress. For the day of Ahia is near upon all the heathen. As thou hast done, it shall be done unto thee. Thy reward shall return upon thine own head, Esau. And the house of Jacob, who is Israel, shall be a fire, and the house of Joseph a flame, and the house of Esau for stubble. And they shall kindle in them and devour them. And there shall not be any remaining of the house of Esau, for mighty God Ahia has spoken it. And they of the south shall possess Mount Esau, and they of the plain the Philistines, and they shall possess the fields of Ephraim, and the fields of Samaria, and Benjamin shall possess Gilead. And the captivity of this host of the children of Israel shall possess that of the Canaanites, even unto Zephyrpeth, and the captivity of Jerusalem, who is Israel, which is in Sepharad, shall possess the cities of the south. And saviors shall come up on Mount Zion, who is Judah, to judge the mount of Esau, and the kingdom shall be Ahia's. Ezekiel chapter 35 of the King James Version Bible. Son of man, set thy face against the Mount Seir, and prophesy against it. Mount Seir is Esau, who is Edom, the tribe of Dan, white people. And say unto it, Thus says Ahia mighty God, Behold, O Mount Seir, I am against thee, and I will stretch out mine hand against thee, and I will make thee most desolate, because thou hast had a perpetual hatred, and hast shed the blood of the children of Israel by the force of thy sword, in the time of their calamity, in the time that their iniquity had an end. Therefore, as I live, said Ahia mighty God, I will prepare thee unto blood, and blood shall pursue thee. Sit thou hast not hated blood, even blood shall pursue thee. And I will fill his mountain with his slain men. In thy hills and in thy valleys and in thy rivers they shall fall that are slain with the sword. Because thou hast said, these two nations and these two countries shall be mine, and we will possess it, whereas a high and mighty God was there. Therefore, as I live, said a high and mighty God, I will even do according to thine anger, and according to thine envy which thou hast used out of thy hatred against them, and I will make myself known among them when I have judged thee. And thou shalt know that I am a high and mighty God, and that I have heard all thy blasphemies which thou hast spoken against the mountain of Israel, saying, they are laid desolate, they are given us to consume. Thus with your mouth you have boasted against me, and have multiplied your words against me. I have heard them. Thus says a high and mighty God, when the whole earth rejoice, I will make thee desolate. As thou didst rejoice at the inheritance of the house of Israel, because it was desolate, so will I do unto thee. Thou shalt be desolate, O Mount Seir, and all Idumea, even all of it, and they shall know that I am a high and mighty God. Malachi 1:3. As I hated Esau, and I laid his mountains as his heritage waste for the dragons of the wilderness. Malachi 1:4. Whereas Edom said, we are impoverished, but we will return and build the desolate places. Thus said a high and mighty God of hosts, they shall build, but I will throw down, and they shall call them the border of wickedness, and the people against whom Ahiah hated had indignation forever. Genesis 25:25. And the first came out red all over like an hairy garment, and they called his name Esau. Now these are the generations of Esau, who is Edom, the white man. Thus dwelt Esau in Mount Seir. Esau is Edom, and these are the generations of Esau, the father of the Edomites, in Mount Seir. Dan shall be a serpent by the way, an adder in the path that biteth the horse heels, so that his rider shall fall backwards. White people worship Dan as a god, mentioned in Amos chapter 8 of the King James Version Bible. Amos 8:14 says, they that swear by the sin of Samaria and say, thy God, O Dan, liveth, and the manner of Beersheba liveth, even they shall fall and never rise up again. Ezekiel 25:12-14. Thus says a high and mighty God, because the Edom had dwelt against, because that Edom had dealt against the house of Judah by taking vengeance, and had greatly offended and revenged himself upon them. Therefore, thus says a high and mighty God, I will also stretch out my hand upon Edom, and I will cut off man and beast from it, and I will make it desolate from Teman, and they of Dedan shall fall by the sword. And I will lay my vengeance upon Edom by the hand of my people Israel, and they shall do in Edom according to mine anger, and according to my fury, and they shall know my vengeance, says a high and mighty God. Ezekiel 28:12-14. Son of man, take up a lamentation upon the king of Tyrus, and say unto him, thus says a high and mighty God, thou sealest up the sum full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. Thou hast been in Edom, the garden of mighty God Ahiah. Every precious stone was thy covering, the sardius, the topaz, and the diamond, the beryl, the onyx, and the jasper, the sapphire, the emerald, and the carbuncle, and gold. The workmanship of thy tabrets and of thy pipes were prepared in thee in the day thou wast created. Thou art the anointed cherub that covered, and I have set thee so. Thou wast upon the holy mountain of mighty God Ahiah. Thou hast walked up and down in the midst of the stones of fire. Thou wast perfect in thy ways from the day thou wast created until iniquity was found in thee. I'm going to pause for a second there. Satan had a diary. Mighty God Ahiah's wife Kaya, who is Eve, had a diary. And she kept A diary of the time she spent with mighty God Ahiah. One day, mighty God Ahiah and Eve and Satan was there. And Satan had a diary, and he had things in it, sexual, immoral things that he wanted to do to his father, Ahiah, mighty God. And that's when mighty God Ahiah found Satan's diary and found iniquity in him. That's why in the last days, Sabrina dowry is actually diary. Ahiah is mighty God was letting us know by Sabrina's last name, dowry is diary, who was Satan. Verse 16 of Ezekiel 28, continue on in the scriptures. By the multitude of thy merchandise, they have filled the midst of thee with violence, and thou hast sinned. Therefore I will cast thee as profane out of the mountain of Ahiah, mighty God, and I will destroy thee, O covering cherub, from the midst of the stones of fire. Thine heart was lifted up because of thy beauty. Thou hast corrupted thy wisdom by reason of thy brightness, and I will cast thee to the ground, and I will lay thee before kings, that they may behold thee. Lamentations 4:22. The punishment of thine iniquity is accomplished, O daughter of Zion, who is Eve, the black woman Judah. He will no more carry thee away into captivity. He will visit thy iniquity, O daughter of Edom, who is white Queen Elizabeth, ESAU the Edomites. He will discover thy sins. I'm going to pause for a minute. I am mighty God Ahiah's daughter. Mighty God Ahiah created me to be his wife. He raised me first as his daughter. And Ahiah would go along on many trips and would leave me with babysitters. These babysitters were very evil. They took all the money that mighty God Ahiah left them for me and starved us. It started off with the Bushes at Anheuser-Busch. They took all our money and left us in Grant's Farm in wagons, my sister and I, and fed us the Roman noodles we make today and was starving us. Mighty God Ahiah came home and he slaughtered all the Bushes. That's why they're down here in the pit of hell. He also left me with Queen Elizabeth, who stole all our gold and our money, which where we are today. He also hid me in mental facilities where I was casting out the demons and devils from the people. And the psych, he was a Russian, he started experimenting on me, and I would write letters to my father to help me. He kept all my letters, and they started raping me in the crazy house, which was Malcolm Bliss in St. Louis, Missouri. Mighty God Ahiah came home, and that Russian psych doctor told mighty God Ahiah I was dead. And I screamed with all my might that one of the nurses had covered my mouth to try to stop me from screaming. And my father heard me, and he destroyed those Russians and everybody that was in Malcolm Bliss, that psych home. So we're going to continue on with scripture, starting with Jeremiah 49, verses 7 through 8. Concerning Edom, thus says Ahiah, mighty God of hosts, is wisdom no more in Teman? Is counsel perished from the prudent? Is their wisdom vanished? Flee you, turn back, dwell deep, O inhabitants of Dedan, for I will bring the calamity of Esau upon him, the time that I will visit him. For again the Edomites had come and smitten Judah, the black man, and carried away captives. Mighty God Ahiah commanded Israel not to mix with the heathen nations. Deuteronomy chapter 7, verses 1 through 4. Mighty God Ahiah told us not to mix with the Hittites, the Girgashites, the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites, 7 nations greater and mightier than us, who mighty God Ahiah called the heathen nations. And when Ahiah, thy mighty God, shall deliver them before thee, thou shalt smite them and utterly destroy them. Thou shalt make no covenant with them, nor show mercy unto them, neither shalt thou make marriages with them. Thy daughter thou shalt not give unto his sons, nor his daughters shalt thou take unto thy sons. For they will turn away thy son from following me, that they may serve other gods. So will the anger of Ahiah, mighty God, be kindled against you and destroy thee suddenly. Again, we're going to pause for a minute. In the beginning, when we were in our 12 tribes, the tribe of Dan were the white boys. We would dance and entertain Ahiah for fire blessings. Because the tribe of Dan was not to be an end-time tribe, mighty God Ahiah blessed them with substance and material more than the other 11 tribes. So many of our people, the blacks and the Latinos, saw the tribe of Dan who could not dance. All they could do was like the stiff robot. And our people went whoring because they wanted the gifts that the tribe of Dan was getting. Mighty God of Higher wanted us not to mix with them, but we did it anyway. So all those that mixed with Esau, the tribe of Dan, or the fallen angels, and they cannot return, for they have repeated their offenses. Mighty God of Higher transformed 1/3 of his angels into humans and sent us to earth. It's mentioned in John 17:18. As thou hast sent me, Yeshua Messiah, into the world, even so have I also sent them into the world. Mighty God of Higher seed in the earth are called wheat in his word in the book of Matthew. Matthew chapter 13, verses 25, 27, 30, 36 to 40. But while men slept, we were in a spiritual dead sleep, but still alive in a shadow of death. His enemy came and sowed tares among the wheat and went his way. That's when Satan started seducing the children of Israel, and they mingled and started having mixed children, polluting the royal seed line. So the servants of the householder came and said unto him, Sir, this thou not so good seed in the field? From whence then had it tares? He said unto them, An enemy had done this. The servant said unto him, Wilt thou then that we go and gather them up? But he said, Nay, lest while you gather up the tares, you root up also the wheat with them. Let them both grow together until the harvest. And in the time of the harvest I will say to the reapers, Gather you together first the tares, and bind them in bundles to burn them, but gather the wheat into my barns. His disciples came unto him, saying, Declare unto us the parable of the tares and of the field. He answered and said unto them, He that soweth the good seed is the Son of Man, the Messiah Yeshua. The field is the world, the good seed are the children of the kingdom of heaven, but the tares are the children of the wicked one, Satan the devil. The enemy that sowed them is the devil. The harvest is the end of the world, which where we currently are, and the reapers are the angels. As therefore the tares are gathered and burned in the fire, so shall it be in the end of this world, the end of this age. This entire dimension is going away. This was a temporary dimension to test those that were burning in the lake of fire, the first Exodus. They begged for a second chance. Ahiah and I had gone up inside the sun, which is the unquenchable lake of fire, and many of them begged and cried and pleaded for another chance. Ahiah showed mercy and gave them another chance and extracted them out of the lake of fire, which down here in the pit of hell, this temporary dimension to test them. They repeated their offenses, spinning us back to where we are today. Verse 41 of Matthew. The Son of Man shall send forth his angels, and they shall gather out of his kingdom all the things that offend, and them which do iniquity, which is sin, and shall cast them into a furnace of fire. There shall be wailing and gnashing of teeth. Esau. Mighty God Ahiah hate Esau, the white man. Malachi 1:3. And I hated Esau and laid his mountain and his heritage waits for the dragons of the wilderness. Romans 9:13, that is written, Jacob have I loved, who is Israel, but Esau have I hated, who is Satan's seed. Revelation 20:10, and the devil that deceived them was cast into the lake of fire and brimstone, where the beast and the false prophet are, and shall be tormented day and night forever and ever. Regarding the resurrection and those that Satan had killed. Revelation 20, verses 13 to 15 of the King James Version Bible says, And the sea gave up the dead which were in it, and the death and hell delivered up the dead which were in them, and they were judged every man according to their works. That's the part of the resurrection. Verse 14, And death and hell were cast into the lake of fire. This is the second death. And whosoever was not found written in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire. So there you have it. That's where white people originated from. Didn't want to make it too long. We just wanted to briefly go over some things. I have previously posted many things regarding the truth about Esau, the white man. Mighty God Ahiah, when we were up in heaven, set it to where Judah, the black man, was the lawgiver. Everybody down here in the pit of hell, we're in a hollow place mentioned in the book of Enoch. where the dead and the evil are being judged. Even the righteous are being judged. So all these lies, Satan is the father of lies. He made people believe the white Jesus was mighty God Ahia. White Jesus is Lucifer. White Jesus is not mighty God Ahia. Jesus' name is a Greek name, which means filthy, greedy pig. So who is it going to be? Are you going to worship mighty God Ahia, I am that I am, or the white Jesus who was created by the white man, the Jesuits, the Jebusites? So I just want to briefly go over that concerning the white man Esau and why mighty God Ahia hate them. Mighty God Ahia hate Esau, who is Satan, because he raped his daughter Eve, his daughter who he was raising to be his wife. That's why mighty God Ahia hate Satan, who is Esau, the firstborn that came out, who was an albino. So there we have it. Satan was a white albino, and I'm going to post pictures to go with this scripture so that you can see the history behind it. So Esau, the white man, Satan, sit your asses down. You are the least in the kingdom of heaven, and you will become shit consumers, like kidneys up in the lake of fire. Your blood will be blue, which is shit and piss, like in the outhouse. All the shit you put in our foods, sewage, poop, pee, and got our people eating pork, which is forbidden. You will have colostomy bags attached to you with our royal shit and royal piss going through your veins. It happened before, and he's going to do it again. We've been up there, and I'm going to stop it at that. Your blood will be blue with shit and piss going through your veins. You will be automatic shit consumers in Yeshua's name. Thank you for listening.